Scott Ritter is sending shockwaves. Trust me, I'm using that word and I know what I'm saying. He is sending shockwaves. Take a listen to what he's saying about Iranian nuclear sites.
One of the most critical facilities in all of Iran is the Isfahan facilities, the nuclear research institutes, and such. These are located very far underground, so far that Trump didn't even try to hit them with the bunker busters because they just would have bounced off. This is where the uranium conversion takes place. This is where the you make metal, convert the feedstock once it's enriched to a level that you want. Let's say if it's a weapon over 90%, you turn it into a metal. These weren't touched at all. Trump fired 34 cruise missiles against surface targets, but the critical infrastructure deep inside wasn't touched, wasn't impacted. Nobody even tried because you can't get to it. So now we take this critical conversion facility with the ability to make the metal, and we note the following: 400 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride enriched to 60% is missing, and nobody knows where it is. The Iranians said they secured it, and it wasn't impacted by the strikes, and there's no reason to contradict that. We know that since January, February of 2021, Iran has been producing centrifuges that are no longer accounted for by the International Atomic Energy Agency because Donald Trump withdrew from the JCPOA, in which accounting for centrifuges was one of the critical aspects of monitoring. And because we withdrew and because we encouraged the European nations not to engage in the required economic interaction that the agreement said, the Iranians followed through with what the agreement allows. If one or more parties are not abiding by what the JCPOA says, then the other parties are not held to their commitments. And so Iran said, we're no longer bound by this, and they began to withdraw. In 2021, they stopped letting people count for the centrifuges. You can build a lot of centrifuges in 4 years. Iran has over a dozen buried sites around Iran, similar to Fordow, that easily could be converted. In fact, they were in the process of declaring a third uranium conversion facility when the bombing took place. My point is, there's nothing stopping the Iranians from building advanced centrifuge cascades in other locations, now undeclared because they don't trust the IA, because the IA spied on Iran on behalf of Israel and the United States, providing critical information that was used to destroy facilities and assassinate scientists. So we don't know where the centrifuges are. They can easily build them. We don't know where the already enriched material is. And let's say the Iranians did enrich it up to over 90%. The facility that converts it into metal that can be used in a weapon is 100 meters underground, untouched. So Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about, or he does, and he's simply lying to the American people and bluster. But there's no professional in the world that would say that Iran's nuclear program has been totally destroyed. The evidence, in fact, directly contradicts that assertion.
I note that General...
What is the irony here? The irony is that the same guy who withdrew from the JCPOA inspection, I mean, if they had this JCPOA in place today, this IAEA agents, they would have been able to access Iranian nuclear sites and get more information about really what is happening with the nuclear program of Iran. But this guy, Donald Trump, he withdrew from it. Means IAEA, they did not have any access, as Scott Ritter is saying. Since 2021, they do not know anything about those centrifuges that Iran is using in their nuclear sites. Now, the same guy is claiming, after so many years, 100% operational success. The bomb he dropped on Iran, on this nuclear sites. I mean, he withdrew and he did not have any people on the ground for a very long time. And since 2021, to know what Iran was doing, the same guy came into power after so many years saying, I have hit the target, like as if he knew everything about Iran nuclear sites. Of course, he doesn't know anything. IAEA, they do not know everything about Iran nuclear sites. They just know what is being allowed by Iran. And rightly so, because it was not Iran who withdrew from the pact, from the agreement. It was United States. It was IAEA. So the same guy now is claiming, oh, we have hit the target, is all obliterated, when the same guy said, we do not want to have anybody on the ground. We don't need for more inspection because Iran already has a weapon and Iran is just playing with us and blah, 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 blah. Only to then later on coming out and claiming this is so bizarre and so strange. But for Donald Trump, like, he's a liar, as we know. He lies through his teeth. And so this was just another lie.
Kane, the Air Force 4-star, who's the current chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, would not say that. But the very, very political and very, very sycophant, like Secretary of Defense, did mouth what the president said. But I've got to believe, and I think this is dangerous, Scott, when they say something as if it is historical fact and they do not have evidence for it, and it's basically PR bluster, and it could affect human lives, and it could provoke Trump to do something else about which we'll talk in a few minutes. Was Iran weeks away from developing a bomb, as Trump also said yesterday on Fox?
Here's Iran's weak spot in this entire adventure. I wrote an article published in Consortium News last October where I said Iran already has the bomb. They just haven't built it. You see, because there's no reason for Iran to enrich uranium to 60%, none whatsoever, except, according to the Iranians, to have leverage to get the United States to come back to the negotiating table, as if to say, if you don't come back or if you attack us, we could go forward. That makes them a threshold state. Then you have the words of the Iranian officials themselves that condemned them. They said, the Iranians said, we're weeks away. If we wanted to and a decision was made, we're weeks away from being able to produce a nuclear bomb. So the answer is yes. Iran was weeks away if a political decision had been made. But countering against that is the fact that the Iranians since April had been involved in negotiations where they were negotiating in good faith to eliminate all of the concerns, to turn over the 60%, to get rid of excess enrichment, to allow American inspectors in, to sign a treaty saying that they will never go back on their declaration. So if you want to make the case that Iran was an imminent threat, you can't. You simply can't, because the United States was supposedly engaged in good faith negotiations with the Iranians. But yeah, technically speaking, I always told the Iranians, and I say it to this day, you don't wave a red cape in front of a bull and then cry when the bull charges. You don't brag about having the potential to produce a nuclear weapon within weeks and then be surprised when people say, well, that's unacceptable, we may attack.
Who prevailed, if you can use that word? Who had the better outcome, maybe is a more apt phrase, in the 12-day war between Iran and Israel?
I put it as a rough draw. Iran, since Iran still contends that it doesn't plan on producing a nuclear weapon, they went through a lot of effort to create a threshold capability that would never be manifested. And even though they theoretically held on to this threshold capability, since they don't plan on having a nuclear weapon, what was the purpose? What was the sense? Over 900 people dead, 102 women, women, 32 children. Some of the women were pregnant. I mean, we're talking about, a lot of people dying for this. But what Iran did show is that it can strike Israel. The Israelis haven't been forthcoming about their losses because they can't be. According to Channel 13 in Israel, we are talking massive losses. Now, I don't know if any of that can be verified, but Israel itself hasn't opened up and said, remember last time when the Iranians attacked Nevatim airfield, within days, we had camera crews out there saying, okay, they hit here, but they didn't do anything. Ain't no camera crews going to any of the Israeli air bases right now for a reason. Just like there's no camera crews allowed to roam Tel Aviv and take a look at the strategic facilities that were struck. Iran hit Israel hard. Now, Israel showed that it is capable of reaching out and touching the Iranians, but it was Israel after 12 days that was begging for a ceasefire, and it was the United States that desperately went through this active theater at the end. The attack that Trump says, obliterated the Iranian nuke. We warned the Iranians in advance. We warned them in advance. Their counterstrike, they warned us in advance. This is where we're going to strike. This is how many missiles. Please evacuate. We don't want to kill anybody. The end of this war was theater, a theatric, so that people could say, okay, everybody did what they need to do. Now we're going to end the war. And that theater was brought on by Israel, which was severely hurt by all of this. They don't want to talk about it. They're broadcasting as if they've somehow come out of this ahead. The Iranians have been far more open about their losses, their casualties, and the Iranians say, we're ready to do this again. So even though it's a rough draw, these are two punch-drunk fighters that went to their respective corners. If they want to come out and answer the bell, advantage Iran.
Here's David Barnea, the head of Mossad, apparently speaking to a group of Mossad and CIA agents, thanking the CIA for helping coordinate the attack on Iran. This goes out for about 2 minutes, but it's very telling. I've never seen this guy make statements of this specificity and identifying, without using a name, but by his title, the Mossad asset, who happens to be the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Chris, cut number 6.
I also want to express appreciation and gratitude to our main partner, the CIA, for the joint operations and the missions that were carried out. And also to the head of the CIA, who supported the Mossad in making the right decisions, which ultimately made this operation possible. We will continue to keep a very close watch on all the projects in Iran, which we know in the most thorough way, and we will be there just as we have been until now. But we must not forget that there are still 50 hostages in the Gaza Strip. 30 deceased, 20 living hostages, whom it is our moral and ethical duty to bring back to our border. I want to thank you all again and to tell you that you are part of history, an unforgettable and inseparable part of what the Mossad has done and continues to do. Continue working shoulder to shoulder with our partners in the IDF and the Shin Bet, and in this way, we will keep bringing great achievements to the people of Israel. So thank you all very much. Well done, truly well done.
Israel is in a shambles, and he's saying, truly well done. Well, what do you think of that, Scott?
I agree with him. Well done. I mean, I don't agree with his cause or anything else, but what they accomplished was phenomenal. They, over the course of 10 plus years, apparently together with the CIA, they built a massive organization inside Iran, sustained it, that was able to establish, warehouse-sized drones. They were capable of assembling drones and then disseminating these drones in operational cells throughout Iran, and position them to have a decisive impact against Iranian air defense, to assassinate senior Iranian leadership, to take out ballistic missiles. Well done. I mean, my God, if I were carrying out an operation of this nature, I would want those results. Now, I would also want to protect my assets. The Mossad has abandoned nearly 1,000 of its agents now to be hung by the neck until dead, because they recruited throwaway assets. They recruited Afghans, Indians, Pakistanis, poor Iranians. It's a typical model. People need to know, and hopefully they've learned now, that if you get recruited by Mossad or CIA to operate inside Iran, you are a disposable asset. You will be arrested and you will be hung, and nobody's going to come and rescue you. But be that as it may, Mossad accomplished a great thing. Now, whether they can replicate this down the road, I don't know. But I think it is interesting, the linkage he's made with the CIA. The CIA for the longest time had something called the Iran Mission Center, which was created to do just this kind of operation. The Iran Mission Center, my understanding is, dissolved because a decision was made during the Biden administration that we weren't going to go to war with Iran, and the Iran Mission Center was about war. But the Near East division of the CIA's operation wing, their Iran desk, they maintained all the contacts, they maintained everything they've done, and they've maintained the liaison with the Israelis. So, the U.S. is capable of providing tremendous amount of material support. If you remember, Stuxnet was the virus that was inserted into the Natanz centrifuge facility. That was a joint U.S.-Israeli operation. The Israelis went rogue in the end, but it was developed and maintained, monitored by the United States. You have to know and have to believe that there are scores of operations of this sort that have been conceived and may have been implemented, and some of which may still be held in reserve for any future activity. So, yeah, well done, Mossad. It doesn't mean I support what they're doing, but hey, you got to call a win a win. I mean, if the Yankees are playing Boston, I'm a Yankees fan, but a Boston slugger comes up in the ninth inning and knocks
I just want to add one thing here, guys. Recently, they have published a report, the Israeli military, and they basically claimed that the losses of drones, the drones that this guy was talking about, and Scott Ritter, he was also mentioning about that. These drones, they cost millions of dollars for Israel, and these drones, a lot of them were destroyed during this 12-day war with Iran. So I don't know if I can say job well done. I can agree with Scott Ritter the way he's agreeing with Mossad, but definitely there was humongous loss, whopping millions of dollars of losses. I don't know if you can still call it a victory for the Mossad operation, and I do not know if they have used drones to target those Iranian generals or whether they just bomb randomly, because as we have seen, a lot of innocent civilians got killed in that bombing, where they claimed they have killed the top army Iranian generals. Again, the operation, whether it was successful or not, we do not know. But definitely Scott Ritter, he gave his verdict over this 12-day war, who won it. And to me, it looks like he's very, very clear that Israel took huge hit. They never expected these ballistic missiles will wreak havoc in Israel. At the same time, he also said that what Israel is capable of doing against Iran was also something very, very significant. Now, we have to also understand this. Any success of the Israeli mission, whether it is done through F-35 fighter jets or drones or whatever it is, the credit really goes to United States. If United States, they do not back Israel, I mean, even if they, let's say, withhold few thousand or maybe a few $1 million from aid to the Israeli military, they will fall apart. The Israeli military will fall apart. In other words, they really have nothing on their own. They have no substance, they have no gut, they have no courage, they have no nothing. They all depend on US, and this whole war that Israel fought against Iran was on the premise that somehow Netanyahu will be able to drag Donald Trump into this. Subscribe to my channel for more commentary. See you in the next video.